Hello, my name is Chris and today I'd like to talk about smoking and family and identity. I'd like to talk about this thing of growing up in a family where generation after generation after generation all smoke cigarettes in a way that it sort of becomes a family tradition, that it kind of becomes part of our family identity. That smoking is just normalised, and what influence that may then have on our personal identity, and how important it is to separate our personal identity from our family identity in order to successfully quit smoking without necessarily having to shun out our family. It's perfectly okay to be a part of our family while still in some respects being apart from them. To say, listen family, I love you and I care for you and I respect you, but this part of our shared experience, this thing about smoking, isn't working for me. So this family tradition ends with me and I'm going to do something differently. I want to talk about my own experience growing up in a family where the majority of adults smoked cigarettes, and it just kind of normalised the process for it. What influence that may or may not have had on my own decision to later start smoking, and how important it was for me to step away from that and say, do you know what, even though my family may have influenced this in some way, I'm still responsible for my actions, and that is a good thing because that gives me the personal power to decide to quit smoking. Before we get into all of that, just another quick reminder that our next live stream is Saturday, May 29th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. UK time. Normally around for about an hour and a half answering questions, just chatting to you about whatever you'd like to talk about. Some people I do still see in the comments asking when the next live stream is. The easiest way to remember when the lives are, it's the same time every single month. It's always the last Saturday of the month at 6:30 p.m. UK time. Just if you need a little reminder, I'll put a link up in the card above and the description below so you can go and set a notification. Otherwise, I'll see you the last Saturday of the month at 6:30. And for now, let's get into the video. So a week or two back, my friends in the United States celebrated Mother's Day. So I jumped into our Finding Freedom Facebook group just to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day. And as I was doing so, I reflected on the fact that when I grew up, almost all of the adults in my family smoked apart from my mum. My mum was one of only two adults I knew who didn't smoke. My dad smoked, and although he later quit, which was awesome, when I was very young, my dad was a smoker. His parents were both smokers, so my grandparents, his brothers were smokers, my uncles, my aunts smoked, my mother's sister smoked, my mother's mother, my nan, she smoked. The only two adults I knew who didn't were my mum and her dad. And to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure that my granddad didn't like smoke a pipe or something. I don't know. I don't think he did. And even all of their friends, when we would see their friends, they all seemed to smoke. So I grew up with this idea that all adults smoke. And it was weirder to me that my mum didn't. Now as a grown man that's able to think logically and rationally, it makes no sense. Everybody else was the weird one for smoking, kind of. But if you grow up in an environment where all adults are doing this one thing, and then there's this one or two that aren't, well, it's the one or two that aren't that are weird, right? It just became this very normal thing that everybody did. And I don't even think that it necessarily started just with that generation. I don't even think it started with like my grandparents. I bet if you go back, you'd find my grandparents' parents smoked, probably their parents smoked, probably their parents smoked. or at least some members of the family, all the way back to a time not all that long ago when the dangers of smoking either weren't known about, or where they either didn't know about the dangers or didn't want to know about them and dismissed them and just did it because that's what they do, and it became this kind of family tradition that got passed down and passed down and passed down and became part of the family identity in a very unspoken kind of way. I don't think anybody in my family ever stood up and went, yes, we are the Scoils family and we smoke cigarettes. Just as I'm sure they never got up and said, we are the Scoils family and we eat food and sleep in beds. Because it didn't need to be said. It was just such a normal part of the family experience that it didn't need to be spoken about. And I also kind of wonder if, our background had anything to do with that. I come from a very working class family. And I did 5 minutes, I'm not going to pretend I've spent loads of time researching this. I did 5 minutes of Googling, and a couple of studies, seem to suggest that, people from poorer families, from low income families are more likely to smoke than those from more affluent ones. That's not to say that, my family was on the poverty line or that we really struggled. Both of my parents worked very, very hard, but we were definitely that working class family. I grew up on a very rough council estate in this town called Wigan, where we don't do anything apart from eat pies and watch rugby apparently. So I kind of wonder, if background plays an impact on that generational family identity. We come from this background where smoking is just the done thing and we don't question it. We don't question whether it's bad. We don't question what it's doing for us. We just kind of do it because it's done. And I think regardless, to economic status or class background or anything like that, I think that even when presented with evidence that actually, quitting smoking ain't that great for us and we probably shouldn't be doing it, there's always a ready-made argument as to why we should do it anyway. There's always that thing you say to someone, did you know smoking's really bad for you and can kill you? And then they turn around and say, well, you say it's bad, but my Auntie Ethel smoked 40 cigarettes a day for 60 years and she lived until she was 80. Completely ignoring the fact that Auntie Ethel looked like she was 80 when she was in her 40s because she smoked that much. Not ignoring the fact that for every Auntie Ethel there's an Uncle Bob who got lung cancer at 45 and sadly passed away. Or if not that, there's always some way of just, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Well, yeah, you could, but it's very unlikely to happen. This genuinely happened in my family. I can't remember how the subject arose. Somebody in my family who I won't name genuinely said, well, look, I don't go to the pub and get drunk. I don't go on fancy holidays, I don't buy fancy cars, so my thing is smoking. Which I'm not going to pass judgment on. I'm just not. We could sit here and dissect that and look at the kind of the insanity in that, but it absolutely makes sense that someone would think that. If we're doing something that is harmful to us, there's a part of our brain that is going to come up with a bloody good reason why we're doing it in order to justify that. We're not going to do something that is damaging us and go, well, this is damaging us and do no good for us. Yeah, I know, so let's keep doing it. Over the years that I've been doing this YouTube channel and talking to people who quit smoking, the thing that comes up time and time and time again is people say, I recognised cigarettes do nothing for me, and when I recognised that, I quit. So it absolutely makes sense to go, well, I'm going to justify this because it's the only thing I got. I think growing up in a family where everybody smokes normalizes it to the point where evidence to the contrary just has no impact. Like I said, there's always some excuse. There's always some, not excuse, there's always some justification for continuing to smoke. And even growing up when I was younger, you know, I went to school and they taught me that smoking was bad. And then I was like, well, I'm never going to smoke because it's bad. Even the adults in my life would tell me that it was bad. You know, they'd go, listen, Christopher, smoking is very bad and you shouldn't do it. Don't do just what I just did because it's very bad for you, little Christopher. And there's that sense of do as I say and not as I do kind of doesn't resonate, right? There's a disconnect there. You're telling me not to do this thing while actively doing it. You are, in a sense, leading by example. You know, unfortunately I don't have kids. I would love to have kids at some point in my life, but I do have a little niece who is my absolute world. And I think the best gift that I can give to her is to, well, actually the best gift that I can give to her is Disney toys, but after Disney toys, the best gift I can give to her is to lead by example. Not to say, hey little one, don't do this harmful thing that I'm doing, because she's going to watch me and go, well, you're doing it, you know. Especially for me, when it was adults that I loved and that I admired, that I liked, well, they're doing this thing, it kind of normalizes it to the point that when I grew up, it absolutely makes sense to me that I started to smoke too. Now, it's very important for me to clarify that what I'm not saying is it's all my family's fault that I started smoking. That's not what I'm saying at all. I absolutely think that my upbringing and my family and the family identity, as I keep calling it, influenced my decision to start smoking. But I continued to smoke long into my adult years when I was a fully grown-up man, you know, capable of making my own decisions. When I didn't even live with my family anymore, I continued to smoke. I made those decisions for myself. And I have to take responsibility for those decisions. And not only do I have to, I want to and I choose to, because that is the most helpful way that I'm going to quit smoking or make any change that I want to make in my life. If I say it is all my family's fault that I started smoking, that gives all of the power and all of the control over my actions and decisions to my family. Now, I love my family, I respect my family, but that control and power over me is something that they don't deserve and have no right to. That control and that power is for me and me alone. And if I am saying it is somebody else's fault that I started smoking, then what I'm also saying is that, you know, how can I word this? If I started doing something because of somebody else, then I can only stop doing something because of somebody else. Whereas if I say, okay, I accept that this influenced my decision, but that decision was on me to start, I did that, I was in control, and now I'm also in control that I can say, actually, I'm going to stop doing this. It's about recognizing that, yes, I am a part of my family, but I can also be a part from them and have my own identity. Family, I love you and respect you, but this part of our shared experience ain't working for me. I need to step away and I need to quit smoking for me. This family tradition ends with me, so that future generations don't have to go through the struggle of you know, polluting their bodies and eventually trying to quit the way that I did. And of course, if everybody in the family smokes and if nobody has ever quit, then that can bring up some level of resistance. Or if not resistance, at least some level of apathy or of just not getting the support that we would like from our loved ones in order to quit smoking. You know, I made the video a while ago, it was years ago now, wasn't it? About, you know, what to do if nobody around you supports you when quitting smoking. Again, link is card and description. And it's a real thing, you know, we turn to people, you know, say, okay, I'm going to undergo this big challenge in my life and this big life-changing thing of quitting smoking. I need some support. So I'll turn to the people who love me and care for me, and they're not able to support me. You know, at best they just might not encourage me, at worst they might try to actively sabotage my efforts, you know, by like offering me cigarettes or smoking around me. When that happens, I think the most important thing to remember is that a person's ability to support us or not is not about us, it's about them. The way we treat other people says more about ourselves than it does about that other person. If I choose to be mean to you, if I try to sabotage your quit, that's not about you, that's about something going on with me. Maybe it's insecurity, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's fear and love. And like, okay, if you quit smoking, then who knows what other kind of changes you're going to make, and then maybe you'll leave me and maybe, you know, we'll grow apart, and I love you and I want you to stay. Anything like that could be going on. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone is not supporting you, that they're an arsehole, and that you have to completely distance yourself from them and never talk to them again. It doesn't. It's like, you know, I said before, it's that thing of, I love you and I respect you, but I appreciate that you're not in a position to help me with this, so I'm just going to not rely on you for support, and I'm going to do this anyway. And again, it comes back to what I was saying earlier, that if I am saying I can only quit smoking if you support me, that is me giving all of my power and all of my control to you. I love you and I respect you, but you don't deserve this power and you have no right to it. This power is for me. It's for me to form my own personal identity. Right? I can't say I can only quit smoking if you support me. I'm going to say I'm going to quit smoking if you choose to support me. I very much appreciate it. If you feel you're not able to support me, that's fine. I'm going to do this anyway because I deserve it, and I recognise that I have my own identity apart from my family. And besides, even if I don't get the support there, I can always go to Finding Freedom, which is facebook.com/groups/findingfreedom1. We have this wonderful community of people who are at all different stages of their quit journey. Some people just starting, some have been with us from the very beginning and now celebrating years since they quit smoking, which is amazing. You'll find people celebrating their triumphs and helping each other when things aren't going so well. Again, you know where the link is, down in the description below. Of course, it wouldn't be a video if I didn't tell you that I wrote a book once. It's called Quit Smoking and Be Happy, available in print and ebook form. And finally, just another reminder, next live stream, last Saturday of the month, May 29th, 6:30 p.m. I'd love it if you could come and hang out and let's spend some time together. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope this has been helpful, insightful. I hope it's, at the very least, giving you something to think about. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.